What's up, guys? Andrew Cooper here, Fantasy Alarm. And I want to do a little something special now that fantasy football season is over. I want to take a look at some divisive players. And I wanted to do it in a way that is not divisive. There's been so much argument about stats versus film, the film grinders versus the stat heads. Everybody's saying that you're not getting the full picture. Well, why not get the full picture? So, what I did is I went and I looked at particular players, today's player, Marvin Harrison Jr., and I looked at all his stats on Fantasy Points Data Suite, Pro Football Focus, Pro Football Reference, Player Profiler, Football Guys, anything out there we had access to, we combed through all of it to get a picture of what's going on with this player. And then I sat down and I watched all the plays. I watched 500 plus routes run, not just the targets, not just the touchdowns, all of them, even the plays that were penalties or whatever. Watch them all to get an idea of what the heck is going on with this player and see where it matched up, see where it didn't, and kind of get the answers for you guys. And actually share some of the film with you just to like show you what's going on here. So why don't we get into it? Marvin Harrison Jr., what is going on with him and how we feel about him in Dynasty moving forward, right? So the first place we got to start is with the quarterback, okay? With Kyler Murray, the most interesting thing that I found with him is that people think that all of his plays or a lot of his plays end up being just scrambles and long plays where he's improvising. I mean, he does do that from time to time, but that's not primarily what he's doing. In fact, more than half of his play, or just almost half his plays at 48.1% per Pro Football Focus, are actually under 2.5 seconds, which is top five of all quarterbacks, right? And those plays only last 1.86 seconds. Here's an example of just a really quick hitter from him. And there's a lot of these here, especially when you have a guy like Trey McBride. So at the bottom of the screen, tight end Trey McBride, and then Marvin Harrison Jr., our guy, is in the trips and he's closest to the lineman. So he's the big guy right there at the hash marks. So watch Trey McBride here. Really, I mean, really quick hitter here. And there's a lot of that from Kyler Murray. Like people are surprised that he really does get the ball out quickly when he gets it out quickly. The thing about doing that, though, is that you don't quite let the play develop. I don't think any coach is ever going to be disappointed with this play. Now let's watch Marv on this one again. He's a guy just off the right tackle, the closest guy in the trips. Now, we don't know what would happen if this play had developed longer, or if maybe Kyler had thrown a pump fake at Trey McBride. And again, you want to take the open guy, but there was a lot of this here where you go through and you watch Marvin Harrison Jr. in zone, in man, and it's not like he's getting blanket. It's not like he's getting covered. He's actually honestly open. It's just the play never progressed to that point. So there was a lot of that from Kyler Murray this year where he's getting the ball very quickly. And again, with Trey McBride on the squad, it's working, right? He did have a lot of scrambles as well, right? And on the plays that lasted more than 2.5 seconds, they were lasting for a long time, as you would expect. 3.8 seconds on average, which is up there with, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, all the guys that scramble all over the place, right? So when you take his whole time to release of all the plays combined, he's kind of right in the middle, actually more towards the long end because of all these long plays. But just know the short plays are very short, the long plays are very long. Here's an example of a long scramble here where you got Marvin Harris Jr. up at the very top of the screen, right? And then the play goes on for quite some time here. And he actually does end up finding Marv, and Marv does a good job of getting open at different points. He's open there, and then he sees the scramble. He gets open again downfield. Nice little, 20 plus yard play. So that actually did happen quite a bit. And honestly, it worked quite a bit for Marvin Harrison Jr. People might be asking, oh, like why, if he was, the scrambles were working, why didn't he have a ton of yards? Why didn't he blow up? Well, he actually did have the second most yards on scramble plays per fantasy points data suite. Well, the number one was Jamar Chase with 192. He had 186. So the scrambles weren't really the problem. And the plays where he was the first read weren't really the problem either. He did have a lot of nice like back shoulder fades. He did have some quick slants where he was getting open. So even some of the longer developing plays where he's the first read. He was the first read on 32.1% of the plays, which is right there with Trey McBride's 34%. So the first reads and the scrambles weren't a problem. And when Kyler did stay in the pocket, good things happened. I mean, here, Marvin Harrison Jr. at the top of the screen, a little play action. Kyler hanging in there, finds Marvin Harrison Jr. Great throw. I mean, on plays like this, Kyler was honestly great. I mean, like when he did hang in there and he made the throws. If you look at his targeting of the secondary option, like go to a site like Fantasy Points Data Suite, he actually had an 83.9 completion percentage when targeting those players, which is very high, top 5 among quarterbacks when targeting the secondary target, but he only did it 56 times, which was, in the bottom half of quarterbacks. He was he was an 18th or so. And I mean, again, there were a lot of quarterbacks that played partial seasons and hardly even really played. So it's like if you're just looking at the raw numbers like I did, 56 is 18th, but there were a lot of quarterbacks who only played like 5 or 6 games. So he really wasn't doing that nearly as much as you would hope, right? And that was kind of a bit of the problem for Marv, as we'll kind of get through here, is that on the plays where you want to take one look at one guy and then hopefully the secondary guy opens up as you go through your read progressions. We didn't really get that far a lot, and Marv was open on a lot of those. And for one reason or another, he wasn't able to get there, right? So I'll show you one here where Marvin Harrison Jr. gets open. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the big guy at the top of the screen at the 30, right, standing right on the 30 up top. And just watch him. Watch this one twice through. Watch Marv here and the move that he's able to put on the safety. I believe it's Aloe Gilman, right? Boom. I mean, that's a big time 70-yard touchdown if there's a way to get him the ball. Now you go back and watch this one from the start. Now we'll watch Kyler. I mean, uh, the snap happens here. There's pressure up the middle, right? And right here, he has to kind of bail on the play. But had he had his eyes upfield coming through there, there's a possibility he could have just fired this one downfield for a big touchdown. I mean, if you go back to right here in the clip, right, and pause it just as he's getting by, if he's got his eyes upfield right here, I mean, he could have fired that, but he did his thing. He scrambled out. He found Trey McBride. So it's like, how can you argue with what happened on that play? Marvin Harrison Jr. did his thing, ran his route, got open. It just wasn't there. It didn't develop in the way he wanted to. And again, so much of that on the tape versus, certain times where you watch guys get stuck and it's not really happening for him. Now, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There's definitely some criticism for Marvin Harrison Jr. himself. There were some times where he did not sit well in zone. And what I mean by that is uh, with zone, you got to kind of feel out where the defenders are and find the spot that's open where the quarterback can comfortably get it to you. And sometimes the thing about like timing routes, like you're running a comeback against man, you got to be at the spot on the time because it's a timing play. The ball's going to be there. You got to be there. So it's like you got to run 15 yards, come back, and the ball's going to be there. So you don't really have a lot of wiggle room. In a lot of these zone plays, you do, right? The whole idea is like the quarterback knows you're going to be in a certain area. He's going to be looking for that color, that red jersey, depending on white or black, whatever they're wearing that day, he's going to be looking for you. But your job is to find the soft spot in the zone. There were some times where he didn't quite feel it out. Here's an example here. And on this one, Marv is at the bottom of the screen, the big body there. And you'll see that Trey McBride this goes over the middle of the field to about the 20, right? And Trey McBride brings his guy, and Marv just doesn't quite drop back a little bit, kind of find the spot where he needs to live for this play to be successful. And you'll notice that Kyler's looking there. He just hangs in a little too close, right? There's so much real estate there, and he just didn't quite peel out. And of course, once again, once Kyler Murray didn't see him on the first go, he took off, he bailed. So it wasn't there. So there's a lot of that going on with him. Another thing I did see multiple times that I got to point out is that uh, at the top of routes versus man or zone is where you create a lot of separation. And there's a lot of different things you can do, a lot of different moves. I mean, a lot of times you can go and just put your hands on the guy and see if you can kind of, get a little push. I mean, not necessarily push him off, but yeah, sometimes maybe. And then you know what? Other times you go around him. Other times you fake like you're going to do that and stop short. A lot of different things you can do to generate that separation. And Marv seemed to default to making contact, and in my opinion, bad contact where it's like you're either making contact where it's going to be called a penalty, or you're making contact where it's like it's not helping. It's in fact it's getting you closer to the guy, and then you don't separate at all. I mean, here's an example. This one's kind of a cartoonish example, but because he loses his footing here. But it's like here's what I'm talking about. He's at the top of the screen here, and you're gonna see he makes contact with the defender at the very top. And on that one, just kind of falls down. It was kind of a blown play. But there's a lot of those where it's like he goes right up to the defender and then doesn't do anything to separate himself and get away and make something happen. So would love to see better things from him there. But overall, I mean, watching this player, this is a guy I'm buying in Dynasty. He's getting open. He's making it happen versus man to man. He was excellent versus man to man. According to Player Profiler, his success rate versus man to man was, third of any wide receiver, 48.1% success rate there. I mean, they said he had over 200 routes in general, which was top 10 for all wide receivers, where he was kind of getting open. So, I mean, I had really no problem with him watching him individually in many cases in terms of getting open and doing his individual job. It was just that the scheme wasn't putting him in a spot to succeed. They weren't looking to him on the intermediate routes very much, and also the trust level might not have been there, right? Like to trust a guy to get open, to give up the short pass, to trust that your star is going to get open. That takes a lot of practice and a lot of work, right? And that'll come with time. And the other part of trust, the last clip I'll show you here, is that there were times where if Kyler Murray trusted him more, maybe he would have put the ball up and we would have saw an individual effort, right? So on this one here, Marv is, you can see, going in motion. He's right in front of Kyler right now. He's going to settle in up top there, and a blitz is going to come from down here at the bottom of the screen, closer to me, right here. This guy up here is going to blitz. The cornerback right there is going to blitz, and if Kyler recognized the situation here and just kind of tossed it up to our guy Marv, where the defender on him was clearly in man, was flat footed at this stage. I mean, this could have been a big play if he had just chucked it up, send it, right? There goes Marv all by himself. I mean, those things will come with time. So for me, when I look at this player, honestly, when I look at the data, when I look at the film, I'm buying. I don't think it's a problem of talent level. I don't think it's a problem of effort level. I don't think it's a problem of ability. I think that there's a couple of things he can obviously work on. Don't we all have things we can work on? But I think in the grand scheme, over the long term, they're going to find a way to get this guy the ball. They're going to build the confidence there. And if they don't, well, guess what? In your dynasty league, this guy's 22 years old. Okay. AJ Brown was once a 22-year-old rookie. And when things weren't working out for him, he shot his way out of town, found himself with Jalen Hurts, superstar. So trust this guy long term. I'm going out and buying at face value. I know people paid a lot for him. That's the price. It could be multiple first, two first, first plus. I'm definitely doing, but this is a guy you don't lose faith in. So thank you so much for joining me. Let me know in the comments or on Twitter at Coupe Fiasco right there. If you want me to hit any specific guys, I'm going to be going through. I'm going to be doing articles on this stuff too. Article up on Fantasy Alarm shortly on this same exact thing, where you can revisit the clips yourself. I'll put all the clips in there. So thank you guys for joining me. Let me know what you think about this format, and we'll do more of them if you like them. All right, guys, take care.